WTOP. My name is Kelly Vlahos, and I'm here with National Security Correspondent J.J. Green, who's going to bring us up to date on the horrific London attacks over the weekend. J.J., bring us up to speed.
Okay, where do you want to start? You want to start with what happened?
Yeah, I think maybe that might be the best place to begin.
Okay, the attack took place at 10:10 p.m. It's on Saturday night. And according to British authorities, there were three men that drove a vehicle, and it was a white sort of cargo van or whatever, down the London Bridge and just ran over people. Got out of the vehicle wearing what have been described as fake suicide vests and pulled out knives and began running towards the borough area, which is a market there, rather, and they began stabbing people. And when it was all over, 7 people had been killed, including the attackers, not including the attackers, I should say. And then there were dozens of people that were injured, either in the vehicle attack, but as well in the market stabbings. But one of the most interesting things that I heard was that people were actually fighting back in the borough market. People grabbed chairs and anything they could and actually fought back, which is a very encouraging sign amid all of this suffering and these dark moments in the UK, is that people there actually fought back. They recognized what was taking place and they knew it wasn't good, but they also knew that they could not just run. It was one of those situations where you're taught if you can't run, you need to fight back, and that's what they did on that day.
I had heard there seemed to be all this conflicting information within the hours of the attack. I've been reading some reports from inside pubs. So did some of the attackers actually get into different pubs or restaurants or facilities, or was this in an open air type market when we describe market, or is it just...
Well, it's just not clear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a part of what makes this whole thing so difficult for the police. There were 3 of these people, and it seemed as though they were inside a structure, but at the same time, they had to come from outside in, and I'm pretty sure, based on at least what I've heard, they didn't just wait until they got inside to start their rampage.
Yeah.
So it seems as though it took place both inside and outside, and one of the most remarkable things about this, Kelly, is that the police were called and got there within 8 minutes of the call and began to neutralize these attackers. I understand about 4 police people were injured in this situation, but they managed to neutralize, i.e. kill the attackers, all 3 of them. And I understand there were dozens of rounds that were fired to do this, but also it was done with extreme precision, considering what the situation was. And this is a scenario that the Britons and people all across the UK have been keenly aware of since March 22nd. The Westminster Bridge attack could possibly happen again. This appeared to be one of those scenarios where it was what experts call an off-the-shelf plot. These attackers knew this would work. They knew essentially it had been tested, and all they had to do was apply their own specific innovation to it to make it work for them, to ensure some element of surprise. But authorities were able to get there very quickly and neutralize them before they were able to kill and harm more people.
Were you surprised how soon this occurred after the Manchester bombing?
No. And why? It's because watching the propaganda and the material that comes out from ISIS and other terror groups on a daily basis, I see the stream of incitement that they're pushing out every day. Their videos, there are messages, whether they are Telegram messages. They have these channels on Telegram and other encrypted message sites. They even do just basic email exchanges with people. So no, I wasn't surprised, because they had warned about this, and also talking with some of my British friends and some of my sources in the UK, they told me a while ago that the fact that the threat level had been lowered might have been a mistake, because they felt as though there were going to be other situations like the one that took place in Manchester and Westminster because of the propaganda that was coming out from ISIS. And let's not forget that there are other terror groups too, like Al Qaeda, which is trying to make a comeback, and they are also threatening. So it wasn't a surprise, but it was unfortunate, and I really am very sad that it took place.
I think that sometimes, some people might think, we hear about the UK being very heavily surveilled in terms of the number of cameras. Their civil liberties laws aren't as stringent as ours. Why is this such a soft target? I mean, maybe that's a provocative question, but how are they able to pursue this kind of terror attack with multiple players involved, multiple suspects, in a city that's has been hit already within months? How? I mean, I'm not casting any doubt on the police enforcement there, but
well, it's the time we live in, Kelly, and the fact of the matter with this particular attack in London was that there was a sleeper cell there, and numerous. The police haven't confirmed this, and none of the authorities have said this, but there are numerous sources that I've spoken to who know this stuff well and are very plugged into the security establishment there, who have made it very clear that these three individuals were part of at least a small network, may not have been a larger network, and they may not have been directly connected and directed by ISIS or any other terror group outside of the UK, but this was a group of people who were inside the UK and in Britain, in East London to be specific about it, that were very well versed in everything terrorism, and they knew exactly what it was that they needed to do in order to pull off one of the biggest surprise attacks that we've seen in quite a while. And they did it in such a way that they had all that they needed, very low-tech gear, and it was a very low-tech attack, but it was a high-impact attack. But it wasn't done in a vacuum. It wasn't one person. It wasn't two people. It wasn't three people. There was a cell of people which comes with, as I'm told, you have a logistics network. You have people who get you things, show you how to do things and how to get to places and move you around and move the things that you need around. These were all the things they had, and this is hallmark work of a cell.
How can the British authorities step up their game in terms of preventing these cells from actually kicking into action or getting to them before they deploy another attack like this? Or, I mean, do you have any sense of how the game might change now in terms of their preventative measures? Or,
well, the one thing that's very clear is there are tens of thousands of suspected terrorists, out there, and I wouldn't hazard a guess as to how many of them are in London, but there are a lot of them. And London is a huge target, just as big as the U.S. is, and for my money, probably a bit more vulnerable because it's easily assessed because of London's connection to Southern Europe and Southern Europe's connection to North Africa and its proximity to the Middle East and the places where terror groups have ungoverned space and operate in permissive environments. And in this place where they are, they're going to have, and it's a very multicultural society. It's a place, a democracy where people are encouraged to come and to be who they are and to, to live freely. So you have people who take advantage of that, and you have situations where people purposely fly under the radar so that they can, find ways to launch this kind of mayhem. The simple fact of the matter is, and several European officials told me that Sir Julian King with the EU, who is one of their top counterterrorism officials, you can't keep up with everyone and everything. And we've known this for a long time when it comes to foreign fighters returning from Syria and Iraq, that there's no way that you have enough people power to keep up with them. It takes more than 24 people to keep up with one person 24/7, that's mobile. And when you have tens of thousands of them, it's impossible to do. One thing, though, that we may see some movement on is the encryption issue. And you talked about civil liberties. We may see some movement on that soon, because I think authorities realize they're going to have to make some kind of move very soon, because this is the life's blood of these terror groups.
So I'm an American. I'm watching all this take place on the nightly news, the cable news, 24/7. They've been covering these attacks. Before that, it was the Manchester Ariana Grande concert. Should I be scared that something like this could happen in the United States? Are there the same threats of terror cells here in the United States that could deploy? We've had a number of lone wolf, quote unquote, attacks in this country, but we haven't seen a level of terrorism that we're seeing overseas. Should we be nervous that this could happen here?
Well, first of all, the answer to that is no. Don't be nervous. Don't be afraid. And the reason for that is because terrorists put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. They put one shoe on at a time, just like we do. So they're human, they're real people. What they hope we will do is be afraid, and we simply can't give them that luxury. Now, is it difficult? Is it hard to do what we're trying to do, and that is to figure out a way to neutralize what it is they're trying to do? Yeah, it is. But there are ways to do it. And I think we have some of the best intelligence and security people in the world at work here in the U.S. on a daily basis. And as former FBI Director Jim Comey said after the Orlando attack, they want us to be afraid. But we should let them. That is the FBI, the CIA, NCTC, NSA. All of these agencies do the hard, heavy lifting. If we see things, we should let them know. But we should not transmit this idea of, oh, we're afraid of you, because that's what empowers them. And the bottom line on all of this is that there's a shelf life to the activity that these organizations are perpetrating right now. They can't do this forever. Yeah. And a part of the reason why that is because as they continue to do it, people become familiar with it. Right. They understand how to navigate it and how to deal with it, and they become less afraid of them. And the scenario is really simple right now. This is a difficult time. It's very easy to be afraid, but that's just not an option.
Well, thanks, JJ. I hope you'll come back and update us on any of these security issues that come before your radar.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.